Hello everyone and welcome back to Gallery Assistants. My name is Luke. We took a little break over the Christmas period, but now we're back in 2019 to bring you episode 3. We've got works by Edward Woodman, Anya Gallaccio, Siobhán, Hapaska and Philip Hoare on display in the gallery at the moment, so there's plenty of work to come and see if you're in the Southampton area. So let's get into it. We've got our newbie at the table.
A newbie at the table, but not new to the gallery.
Not new to the gallery, no. But go around and introduce yourself.
I'm Amy. I'm a gallery assistant.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a gallery assistant.
I'm Piers and I'm also a gallery assistant.
Look at that, making up gallery assistants.
Oh,
cheers guys. I've already mentioned that we've got Edward Woodman in the gallery at the moment. He's like our big boy in the gallery. He is a photographer. He's worked mainly in the 80s and 90s, I believe, doing artwork photographs, but we've also got a collection of his work from his early career as a photojournalist. So we sort of get a real display of the work that he's produced over his career and his life really. But that was something that I wanted to bring for everyone here. So he's obviously developed his method and his practice over his years and the time that he's been an artist. But for everyone here, I know we're not all artists. Piers, would you consider yourself an artist?
don't even know who I am.
Piers is a writer.
No, well,
that's an artwork. That's an art form.
Well, I studied art and I definitely made what any naive person under the age of 18 would consider art. But yeah.
Okay.
This is not a therapy session.
So I wanted to bring forward a question to you guys, being that we've all progressed over the years in our own discipline. And how do you think, how do you think your own artwork in your specific medium has evolved throughout the time that you've been doing it? Amy, do you want to go first? As a craftsman of the world.
And a big up-and-coming artist.
You've been in the Echo, that's big. That's
Twice.
Big. Twice?
3 times.
3 times?
Sorry.
Four? You're just adding numbers.
Genuinely. I've been the person, that person? Tiny little column that they do. I've been that person twice.
That person twice?
I've been that person twice.
Wow.
You know that face, it's called.
Oh, okay.
I've been that person twice.
Wow. That's impressive.
Rachel wrote, I don't know if she put it in the printed Echo.
Do they everything on the website doesn't go in?
I don't know, I'm not sure. Didn't get a copy. So I don't buy it. Sorry.
No, I don't. Sorry, Echo.
But the other times it was about your artwork.
Yeah, it's about my artwork.
And the first one was about dwelling, was it?
It was about my pub. Dwelling's not been in there.
Oh.
It was about the pub at Winchester Gallery.
Ah, okay.
Not anywhere else. It was at Winchester Gallery.
And was that related to the show that you had at K6 as well?
Yeah, that was the work I had at K6.
Because when you say pub, it wasn't really a pub, was it?
Elements of a pub that were put into a space. And
so
it's
really
installation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Has your work always been about creating a place?
I guess so. I used to just make sculpture that was the object, and now I've become more involved in the work, and I want to make it more interactive and more have a conversation rather than looking at an object. I want you to look at it and also engage with it as a real life object.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 I don't know why, but I feel like, have you ever done painting?
No.
Oh, I just made that up.
I've never
Amy's
painted.
a big painter.
Amy's always painting.
She doesn't paint, no.
I have one painting that I made.
Oh yeah.
It's a painting of a dead blue tit.
But you drew though. You definitely drew.
I drew
didn't
it, and my friend taught me how to paint it, and I just wanted to know how to use oil paint, so he showed me, and
that's pretty cool.
Made
so when did you start actually building things? Because you're more of a hands-on creator.
First at uni. So we had different modules when I was at uni. We started with sculpture, then we went to print, and then we went to painting. Or we were in groups and we swapped around. And the first one I was put into was sculpture. and then I did a sculpture with some bones that I found.
Dead blue tip. Bones.
I know it's dark, isn't it? No, I found these great big. I think they must have been cattle or cow bones.
Okay.
In this alleyway in Farnham.
What, they were just down the alleyway?
Yeah, that someone had been.
How did you know they were cattle bones?
Because they were huge. There was a vertebrae. It was
Okay.
this big.
Was it at the back of the butcher's?
It might have been a butcher's a long time
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, someone was renovating their
Yeah,
house.
because you went
Oh,
to
okay.
Farnham, didn't you,
Yeah.
for your course, whereas
Yeah.
Winchester, where I was, you had to choose before you went. You couldn't
really?
do
Did you
them.
really?
Yeah, you
Wow.
had to choose between painting, sculpture,
Wow.
and printing, and I chose painting. But I actually ended up doing lots of installations, and I quite enjoyed doing that actually. But so I guess it's good because that's fed in. It's given me the chance to try out. It gave me the chance to try out different things, and I still do experiment and play with the different ideas in that way. And I think it's good not to be too rigid actually. And I don't like pigeonholing generally anyway. So just because you haven't painted since that doesn't mean that one day you might not feel that that could be part of your artwork. Same with photography and printing. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah, that's
have
true.
to.
Yeah, I did start as a photographer actually. I forgot that.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
This is what we need to know, Amy.
Yeah, I did.
You've gone from photographer to
I was adamant.
installation artist.
Absolutely adamant. I was going to.
Minor phase of painting dead birds.
Yeah.
What was the subject of your photography?
I was far more interested in documentation photography, like Edward Woodman. Ironically
go,
enough,
look at
I
that.
can't believe I've not really thought about it.
was the family
Silly.
connection that exists in your work now? So it wasn't related even
no,
then.
that's
Oh, okay.
really recently.
That's recent, right?
Looking into that.
What were you documenting?
Before I was just really interested in different techniques,
Okay.
different processes, and the best way. And like my favourite photographers were. I've forgotten his name. Terrible without his names.
What
I'm
did he
awful
do?
with
The
artists'
most
names.
famous documentary photographer,
What, American
Henry-
or
French.
Fox Talbot? Who are you talking about?
Oh, I can't remember his name as well.
Yes, Henry Besson.
Cartier-Bresson?
Cartier-Bresson.
Bresson, that's
That's
it. Gosh, we had
We
to
probably just butchered that name.
dig
but-
around.
We know who we're talking about.
Yeah, he was my absolute favourite.
Yeah, he's great.
Along with Martin Parr,
Mm.
big fan.
He's got
Martin
something in
Parr.
Bristol, doesn't he?
Does he?
We were going to go to it, but I think it was closed.
Uh,
I might be thinking of something different. Martin Parr Foundation? I
Yeah.
don't know.
He's a
Yeah.
photographer.
I know he is, but I think he was going to be in Bristol. He has something in Bristol, maybe, that we were going to go and see.
Okay, because you that's your specialism, isn't it? Photography, Luke.
I do dabble in photography, yes.
I don't really
you
know
are
that
an
much
artist
about.
in residence. aren't you?
Yeah.
At Solent, yeah, that's very, very well. I say new. It started last year, but I started off doing moving image. So I was originally a filmmaker because I went into college, loving film. I still do love film. Did film studies as well, and so I sort of saw the two as a partnership because I could make my film and then study the hell out of it. But then I did that for 2 years. Really enjoyed that. I did a lot of comedy films, like funny.
Did you?
Yeah, I did a documentary about the life of a clown, and a bully who was dressed as a hot dog, and it was like a pandemic in the Hedge End area of
Sounds like a very dark comedy.
a bully who was a hot dog. I mean, I guess it was a dark comedy, but it doesn't come across that way.
Okay.
And then
Clowns are a bit creepy, aren't they?
yeah, clowns.
Mm.
Yeah, the clown one was fun. I
Mm.
quite enjoyed that. I was walking around Budgeons dressed as a clown. It was great.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do.
Have you told Kat
And that
this?
was.
Yeah, I
when-
showed it to her.
Yes.
I was going to say
I don't
that's,
show many people it 'cause it's
that's
just
when you
from my
actually
darker
were
days.
filming.
That's when I was actually filming, and then I did a foundation year after college because I didn't know what I wanted to do after I finished actually going to college because everyone was off to uni. I had no idea. This came up, and it was the first year that they'd done it at Barton Peveril, and it was free. So I thought, I'm not losing out. I might as well do it, see what happens. And then we got to do 2-week rotations of each sort of discipline. So we were
Right.
doing textiles, fine art, and these were all things that I'd never really done before. And yeah, we started doing photography, and I loved it.
Mm.
I was doing nature and wildlife more than anything, which wasn't really, looking back, that was quite, I don't know, generic, if you like, in the sense that it wasn't a particular project about a certain subject matter that I now do. And I stuck with that, and then I didn't go to uni straight away, and I was just continuing doing that in my private time, just going to the New Forest and photographing endlessly pictures of leaves
With
and
a
deer.
digital camera.
With a digital camera. So at this point I hadn't even touched film photography. And then, yeah, I decided I was going to go to uni, ended up at Solent, which is great, by the way.
Plug.
Yeah, plug. And yeah, I then ventured into film photography, and it was great. Absolutely changed my impression of photography around. And now, yeah, I would say I'm more documentary photography based, like Edward Woodman, funny.
But still an artist rather than, making some film for the BBC or
Yeah, I
wildlife.
as much as I enjoy, like you see the programmes on the BBC where it's like Planet Earth and Human Planet, that sort of thing. Visually, I still find that kind of work of nature and wildlife stunning, and I enjoy it as more of a side element to what I now photograph mainly. So yeah, I don't know what it was that changed my impression of photography, but it went from more of a mainstream view on it to more of an artistic viewpoint. So yeah, now I stick to documentary.
But it's the creativity, isn't it, and the control probably. I mean, if
Yeah.
if you're given a project such as recording wildlife somewhere, that's quite rigid, really. I mean, I'm sure you can interpret that differently, but
No, I know what you mean.
you've got much more freedom and especially you're directing your own material, presumably. aren't
Yeah,
you?
and the work that I usually do is more, I don't know, I developed a more of a personal side to the work. So as I went through university, my projects went from, so for example, my first one was about arcades. So I was photographing arcades along the south coast when they were empty.
Amusement arcades.
Yeah, so like
the
the
bright
slot
lights,
machines
yeah.
and everything, but it was in black and white.
Oh.
And when I was doing the work, I sort of enjoyed it. But arcades have a very eerie feel to them when they're empty. And I enjoyed that, but then I started doing work about people and their pets, of people I knew, so my parents, other people that I knew, photographed them with their pets as well. And then, final major project became a project about me and my sister, my twin sister, who also does photography. And it was just documenting our relationship with each other to sort of describe what
That's
it's like to be a
fascinating.
twin.
People are always interested, I think, about twins, aren't they?
It's because people always like, oh, what's it like being a twin?
Twin, yeah, of course.
And I don't know, having one is very difficult to explain succinctly what it is like. So I thought, what better way to do it than make a whole project about it. Yeah, but I did go back to moving image very briefly.
Oh, yeah?
And it was very odd, and it was nothing like I'd done before.
No clowns?
No clowns. I chose a piece of music that I liked and made people listen to it, and then I've filmed them listening to that piece of music.
What was the piece of music?
It's by a band called Roosevelt. It's called Night Moves.
Do you know that? No?
Not many people knew it. That's why I chose it, because not many people knew it.
Yeah.
I won't play it just in case copyright takes us
Oh,
down.
yes.
But yeah, I sort of recorded people's reactions to it, and I can't remember what inspired me. I think it might have been a mixture of Andy Warhol, because I think it was him who recorded people smiling at a camera for ages.
He did a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah, and it was kind of like weird.
Yes.
And it's just them smiling at the camera for an extended period of time.
Yes.
And it was sort of that subtle reaction that I wanted to film.
So like a sincere, the genuine reaction.
Yeah, I wanted to just sort of record, human not interaction, because they couldn't see me. I just sort of I left them on their own in the studio, and then they were just left with the camera in front of them. So to some degree, there is an effect of the camera on the person, because they'll be like,
a bit self-conscious.
the camera's looking at me and I'm listening to some music.
See, this is
Like us with this recording.
what interests me
Mm.
is what, especially with all of you guys, what actually motivates you to make work? Like Luke, what specifically motivated you to have an interest in people's particular reactions? And then Amy's interested in her family, and you're interested in painting and abstraction and installation. Why do people even do art?
Oh my god! Here we go.
I mean, I don't know.
No, it's a valid question.
If you could summarise and think, like, what were you trying to achieve, and what was the satisfaction in producing a piece of work?
Mine is entirely selfish, in the sense that I love watching people, to the point where I even made a project about, this is going to sound weird, photographing people through their windows at night during my second year of uni.
No, that's...
So there was,
yeah.
but it was through a fascination of walking around at night, and I've noticed that a lot of people just don't have any curtains drawn with their lights on. I can see perfectly into your house and your entire world.
But that's so relatable.
But they don't know I'm there. But
all you've done is record what pretty much everybody does.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody does. I do. I stick my head out the window and look and see what I can see.
Yeah, but
it's like on the train journey, isn't it? That you do get that, and I think there's been films made about that kind of voyeurism of seeing people who are not aware that you're looking at them, and so it's a fascination, I suppose, isn't it? And actually, usually, like if you're on a train or something, you can't really avoid that unless you don't look out the window.
No, that's true.
You don't necessarily search for it, but then you were actually going out looking.
Yeah, but coming back to what you were saying, Piers, is that it literally is all my decisions boil down to a selfish need to explore my personal interests, really, and just have a means of visually creating something that stems from that.
I always wonder, is it that people desire to make an object, and I use that term loosely, so a photograph being an object, piece of writing, piece of painting, piece of anything, text, speech, conversation, whatever, and that having made that object, is that then fulfilling and is a piece of sustenance? So it comes from within the body, projected outward, and then it's consumed again, and then that has to happen. So it's from, you basically feed yourself in a sense. Is that?
That's well described. When I make something, I mean, for me, it's very personal making work, and it can be autobiographical. I mean, you make art from drawing from your environment, from your
it's an
experience.
Extension of yourself, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and
you can't escape that. I think.
No, I think, and it depends on the time that you live in and the place that you live in, your situation, your so many things, but all that feeds into the work. Sometimes the work is an expression of your angst or your anxiety or your delight in something, or you may just, I mean, for me, I work quite often with found objects, and finding something. I used to do a lot of picking up things from the beach, but just random things that, not sort of your stereotypical driftwood, but just bits and pieces that arrive on the beach, and wonder where they come from. And I mean, they have their own history themselves, and I think that's quite a common thing with found objects, that brings its own story into your artwork, and then you take it a step further. And my own work is sort of depends on those layers of my interpretation of something as well. But there's other things that feed into it, like I really enjoy using bright colours, and that makes me feel good, and applying paint makes me feel it's an enjoyable thing to do for me. And also, I always talk, people you go into a zone, and you go somewhere where you can't, people who write music, I think, writing poetry, doing something really to that level where you're very mindful of just what you're doing at that present time. That's a space, it's quite precious and almost sort of sacred in a way. I think people have always searched for that, and in different cultures they're able to reach those sorts of areas of their brain and their physical being that we maybe don't actually experience on just in our daily routine. So it's kind of it is a special thing, I think, for me personally. And making something when you're in your studio space and you're quiet and you're thinking about this particular object or making this piece of work, finishing that it's still satisfying. The process for me is the most satisfying thing, but still to have that object or that piece of work and want to share that and show it to other people, and hopefully that inspires them some way or intrigues them, or it demands a response, maybe, hopefully, if it's doing what it should do, I suppose.
So what drives Amy to make?
Well, if you read my personal statement.
Oh, yeah.
No, I most of my work currently is a way for me to reconnect with family members that I don't know or never met, and I've found a really rich history that I had no idea that was there. So yeah, for me it's a way of reconnecting with people that either I never met or did know but feel a disconnect from because maybe I don't get on with them as well as I feel like I should, certain people that are in my life. It's interesting what you say about the sacred feeling that you get, because my artistic practice, what I consider my artistic practice, is very research heavy, and then I tend to make an object or an outcome, and the most exciting part is the conversation or the event that I will put on around it, and I found that's a new thing, that's the most exciting thing. But the sacred thing that makes my brain sort of switch off a bit is when I do my craft, which is my carving spoons, which is I consider very different process, a different thing completely. But in some cultures that might not be considered two separate. I don't think it is for a lot of people, but for me, I just think that they're. Really,
you see them as two separate
things. At the moment,
things.
they're just completely different things.
You're saying, but I think what my point kind of was that in our Western sort of way of looking at things, it's very much like craft is here and fine art is here, but in other cultures there's no such divide, and you can be creative in a way. We're artists, or we don't just suddenly go in the studio. Oh, I'm an artist now. You have to. You just live a creative life.
Is it
really.
that people considered craft devoid of ideas, and art is? Well, this is so generalised, but art is craft with ideas.
I don't think.
Or just ideas.
I don't know. It's interesting. I think we could probably write a thesis on this. But
it's evolved in different ways, isn't it? But
go on, you explain.
Yeah, I feel like they should be the same, but I've gone to art school and learnt that they're not the same.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
yeah.
Whereas if we were living in a different culture, in a different place, we might not make that distinction.
No.
You can make something, an object that it's maybe about being useful. Is it about being useful?
The practicality of something.
Because craft tends to be.
But then craft can just be decorative, can't it?
They do tend to be useful originally. Like I make spoons, and most of the spoons that I make are useful. I might add decorative elements to them, and then that's why I still consider it craft, because they are objects that I hope people use. If they buy them, then they use them. And then it's sort of sticking with spoons. It sort of evolves into like the Welsh love spoons.
What are they?
Do you know about those?
No.
So in Wales, usually a man will carve a love spoon to give to a girl that they fancy.
Notes.
You're taking notes.
Right, I'm making a spoon.
That's what they do, and they're really, really intricate, and they're really beautiful, and they're often hand carved, but they're not useful spoons.
Is that like the spoons? You get the little ones on tourist booths in London.
No, not
they're
like
wooden.
That. They're wooden.
But it's designed to be decorative as opposed to actually used.
You've got a point there.
Yeah.
Although I use those anyway.
tea,
I use them for the tea bags at work. So
How big are these love spoons?
they can be like little or big, or there's so
All
many,
shapes and sizes, Luke.
so many, so many designs that
Okay.
I've seen. Yeah.
And they're still,
I don't know if people.
or is it more of an old?
It's an old tradition. I don't know. I'm not
I
Welsh.
think it's Celtic.
It's a
I think,
Celtic. Yeah, they call it
come
a
from
Welsh love
Celtic
spoons. but
designs
it-
and things, aren't
yeah.
they? You know,
Yeah.
the knotting and the. But it could just be anything. I mean, but yes, it's true that people have always. I mean, I was thinking of the prisoners on the ship that used to carve into ivory and that sort of thing. When it was, well, I don't know if it was. I'm not quite sure of the history of these things, but maybe it wasn't ivory they were carving, but it would be whatever they could get their hands on the ship, and it was bones. I'm thinking about actually now, and they used to cut, carve into the bones and things like that.
Well, it's the same as people in war, in the First World War and Second World War. There'd be a lot of trench art, if
Yes,
you like.
Oh, really?
yes, I guess
And they
that's
would
what I was
carve
thinking.
into bullet casings, various other things, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I guess it's a means to, depending on what situation you're in, to pass the time and send yourself mentally somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's such a strange thing to think of, that somebody making, in scare quotes, art in a situation where you needed to survive. I mean, you could say for your mental well-being, that was paramount to your survival. But I just find that very strange, making art in the war. Well, I guess Wilfred Owen writes in poems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a need. It's like quite a. I don't think I could
It's a necessity.
be, happy if I didn't.
It's a way to cope.
Yeah, I think it is a bit in a way for artists, but for everybody needs art, don't they, in their lives? I think so.
Yeah.
Even if you're not making it.
Well, I think that's what we've seen since being more in the city centre now, where, because there was a gent who came in the other day and he was speaking to me and Amy about do we see more regular people coming in than non-regulars? And I said to him, I think the number of regulars is still the same, but he made a valid point of saying it's more diluted now because there's more members of the public than there used to be, because obviously location and getting there was an issue, I'd imagine, for most people going to the gallery. But now that it's in the city centre, there's more people coming in, and more people coming in experiencing art that wouldn't necessarily go out of their way because it's easy
Contemporary
to
work
access.
like this as well, because we've always had City Gallery that have had historic and contemporary, but mostly modern. Modern meaning 1850 to 1950.
Yeah.
In my head.
We definitely get quite a wide audience now. I think much wider than it would have been at the university, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And we, for example, Southampton being a cruise ship destination or pick-up point, whatever, we get lots of people from the cruise ships coming in. I think it's actually on their itinerary list.
Well, we go down there and give them out our advertising material at least.
And now with the power of Facebook and other social media, people know about the gallery more and the different events that we have, and the events and engagement programme is quite broad and reaching different audiences and attracting different people.
A lot of different people come to those events, whereas I think before they often had the same families, exactly the same families will come every time, the same students.
Yeah. Which is good because they obviously enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
On the other hand, you're not maybe reaching a wider group as you would like.
Yeah. At least now we get everything from little children with their parents coming in, which is a delight to hear what they have to say, because they have no filter on what they're saying about the work. There was, I think there was a little boy that walked in and he was like, "Oh, not more pictures," into Barkerville, and I was like,
I want installation work. Oh.
There was actually a little girl today who was really sweet, and I was chatting to her dad, and he said that in one of the galleries she had to lie down on the floor to look at the work.
Oh, really?
And he said, "Oh, you're looking at different perspectives, and you're getting different perspectives of the work," and that's what actually came up in the talk last night. Siobhán Hapaska's work. She took photographs of her work from different perspectives, and the guy, I can't remember his name, really bad with names.
It was quite difficult, Irish name, wasn't it? So,
he was saying that, when you see a sculpture, you don't normally see it from one perspective, then another one, and then another one, and then another one. You walk around it.
Yes.
But this little girl had decided to lie down and look at it from that one angle.
Which one was she looking at?
I don't know. I was up in a different
see.
gallery, but that's what the father told me.
Snake and apple would be fun to lay on the floor and
Yeah.
look up at it.
Yeah. But,
Could you crawl? Oh, sorry, Siobhán. If this gets to you, could you crawl under that? Do you think that's even acceptable?
Well, the way it's designed. So, for anyone that hasn't seen it, Snake and Apple is a construction of fiberglass
And metal
I-beams.
What are they called?
Oh, the fiberglass apples.
And the snakeskin beams
Yeah.
made of aluminium.
They're I-beams.
They're what?
They're called
steel
I-beams.
Steel I-beams. I'm terribly sorry.
And
Not
they're
aluminium.
covered.
shape of an eye.
They're almost sort of upholstered in this, which
Artificial
is a strange
snakeskin.
idea in the first place, to upholster an I-beam, which is an industrial material, covered with a mock fashion snakeskin thing.
Yeah, but it's fashioned in a way that gives crevices more access than other parts of the sculpture. So, I don't know, as long as you're not touching it, because we don't allow any touching, as much as you want to touch these things, because they're very tactile
Absolutely
looking.
delectable,
Very
these
tempting.
sculptures, but you can't touch them or try to eat them.
But yeah, I imagine you could, but I'm going to try that.
Yeah, because
I'm laying on the floor on Tuesday.
Yeah, lie on the
well,
floor
yeah,
and look
I
at it.
agree.
Yeah, so there's 4 pieces in that exhibition, isn't there?
Siobhán, yeah.
Siobhán Hapaska's piece, we were talking about Snake and Apple, and then the other pieces in there are
Candlewick, Love,
Love,
and Earthed.
and Earthed.
Earthed.
There was
Yes.
a chap in today that walked up to Earthed and just giggled. Just giggled at it.
You
What,
just
said
imagine.
nothing?
It said nothing. Didn't speak to me about it. He just went in there and giggled and then walked out again.
Well, I don't know,
Really-
sculpture is...
Really funny.
Since being here in the new space and experiencing the range of work that we've had, from paintings to ripped
Film.
mirrors, film, photography as well now.
Installation.
Adulthood, yeah, we've had everything.
Interactive,
I think people's reactions, for me, are most enjoyable to see with the sculpture works. Just because, or at least with the work that Siobhán has got downstairs, especially Candlewick, which is essentially a massive burnt candle wick, like the tip of the candle that you would light. The look on some people's faces, because they just, visually you're just like, wow, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because it's something that you'd never see before. I would never think to look at a candle wick and then think, I'm going to make a massive one of them.
They're really unsettling, aren't they?
They are unsettling. They look like 2 aliens.
Yeah.
And they're going to
because
click
it's
at
a
you.
pair, isn't it? And they're
Cool.
quite tall. They must be about 7-8 foot tall,
At least, yeah.
at least, and they're sort of black. And so the idea, I
very
think,
black,
is
yeah.
that they are burnt completely candle wicks, so they wouldn't be able to emit
Actually
light.
burn, yeah.
So, because there are all these different connotations in her work, aren't there? All these different kind of
Yeah.
nuances and
Loads.
readings, and everybody sees, I think, different things. But I don't think there's a prescriptive sort of.
Well, no, because we spend more time with the work than anyone else. And there was a guy who came in the other day, and I ended up speaking to him for about, I think probably my entire hour that I was in there. And he came in, and he looked at it, put his hands on his hips and turned around to me, and I was like, oh, here we go. We're about to have a good conversation, I can tell. And yeah, he just started talking about the notions of hard and soft in Snake and Apple specifically. And it blew my mind, because I'd never really thought about it. Because he was talking about how the typical hardness of the aluminium beams being the rigid force against these what look to be soft fiberglass apples, but then you realise that they're also hard, but they're designed to look like they're being squeezed by the actual aluminium beams. And then that blew my mind because I hadn't really thought about it. And then I was like, but wait, there's more. And then I pointed out the fact that the beams are covered in snake skin, which a snake is, well, if I trod on a snake, wouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
Do snakes have bones in them?
Yes.
They do have bones.
Okay, so they do.
A snake is like more squidgy than an aluminium beam.
Well, definitely.
And the whole thing.
I think there's quite a few sort of contradictions and provocations and all sorts of things going on in the work. I mean, and some of those were discussed at the talk last night, which was quite interesting, about the way that you view the work, about the links, some of the ideas that could be interpreted because of the religious aspects of some of the titles, and actually Siobhán's upbringing in Ireland and Catholic society, and the different connotations with the sort of different pieces in the exhibition. There's the sculpture called Love, which is I think the main thing that you notice really is the materials and the use of materials.
Oh my God, yeah.
And there's such a wide range. There's wax and aluminium and charcoal. Concrete fabric, which is quite a new material. Apparently it's used for making refuges, maybe, for refugees and in the military and what have you. And it just comes as a fabric, basically on a roll, I think, almost. And,
really?
And when you put water on it, so you mould it first, into your shape, and then when you put water, it just sort of hardens into the shape.
That's cool.
Yeah, I didn't know until...
I thought it was a piece of fabric then dipped in concrete, but knowing that...
But what she's done with it, she's made these incredible forms, and there's two separate ones, but when you first see it, you think it's connected.
They're very close to touching.
Amazing lights coming from it, which you imagine there might be a light inside it, but it's actually just...
The way it's reflecting everything else.
Is so bright, and the reflection of just the ambient.
It's just the glossy paint on the inside.
Yeah,
Because someone asked me, is there actually a light in there? There's no light, is there?
I think trying to find a light in there completely escapes you, and the closer you get to it,
you always look like the actual sculpture because you're
there's. I think I confused myself, and I either said, "Oh, there is a light in there." Oh no, it's not. Oh yeah, there is, to a gentleman and his young daughter for about 10 minutes. But yeah, there isn't a light, I think.
Well, it's the playfulness as well of the pieces. Although there's kind of a dark, sinister side, there's also a playfulness about the use of materials and the kind of playing with your ideas. All these things run through your head when you're looking at it, and you're trying to interpret it, as it were, but then at the same time you're just enjoying looking at these very seductive pieces of work, and I mean the flashing light going round, when I first saw it, it reminded me of the standard lamp in people's houses, in the old days, and because it stands off the floor and actually almost looks as if it's floating. It's very clever how it's done, but and it revolves, and it makes you worry that there's some kind of emergency and you need to evacuate or something. And they all have different nuances, and I think there's some materials above all though that it's very clever, the different aspects of the materials and the way that they're used in an unusual way.
It's all things that I've never seen. But yeah, the concrete cloth fabric, very strange. I didn't know that you added water. That's cool. But
really cool.
Yeah, I do find the work, well, at least some of them, there's definitely a sexual vibe to them, which, I don't know, I think you'd have to be a certain age to witness that in the first place. But there's just something about it. They're almost magnetizing me to touch it.
Yeah.
And it's infuriating that I can't.
But also the snake and apple is being pinched. It's flesh being pinched, and it's so uncannily represented in that sculpture. And for me in particular, the love looks like fondant draped over a form.
Yeah, it does actually.
And
you're right.
It has that powdery surface to it. And then so for me, the two delectable pieces are Snake and Apple, and then Love. And then you've got the very strange pieces, which are Candlewick and Earthed. And Earthed is it made of metal or plastics?
Which part of it?
Because there's the sort of like the candle rim, because it's supposed to represent a Catholic candle.
Wait, which one's this?
This is Earthed.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
It's the eternal flame, isn't it?
It's a
idea.
From what Siobhán told me, there is a tradition in Catholicism where a candle is always lit to signify the constant presence of God.
Yeah, he was talking about it from a Judaism point of view. Can't quite remember what it was.
Oh, and that's why it's always
because it's
turned on
quite
as well.
common in many different religions. This idea.
Her explanation to me was her interpretation of Christianity was that she was not a believer, and what she had done was replace the constant presence of God with the constant absence of God, and put in that place an emergency signal, which you could take many readings from.
She doesn't. I don't think she's a practicing Catholic. She was.
No, she's not.
Yeah.
But then Candlewick is. I wonder if Candlewick's one of the hardest to read.
But I don't know if that's just because it's more.
And there's two of them. Why two? You could have had one.
That's true. But I think it's harder to read because it's more. I don't know what the word is, but it's an object that you would see.
Actually, to be fair,
fairly often, but blown up.
There's a whole connection to things ending throughout that whole. So Snake and Apple, end of paradise. You've got Love, they're separated. End of love, disproportionate. You then have Earthed, which is end of faith.
The world.
And then and then Candlewick, which is the end of a flame.
Yes.
And whatever is left, that's the remnants of
burnt out.
Exactly. So
maybe they're all related.
Perhaps so. Yeah, perhaps.
In several ways, but you go round and round. This is the thing. I think
it's what she's dealing with, the themes and ideas that she's trying to work with.
Speaking of things that go round and round, Philip Hoare is in the gallery. And it's
not the man, the film.
Yeah, he's not just running around the gallery.
So now you're
He has
going
been.
to talk
He has been in the
He has
gallery.
been in his shorts.
But,
the I Was a Dark Star Always, the film by Philip Hoare, who's a local artist, I think, isn't he?
Does he live
Netley.
locally? Oh, does he really?
Yeah, he lives in Netley.
That's cool.
Yeah, Netley. He
Well,
goes
it's an
swimming
artist,
every
so
day
He does go swimming every day.
in the
right?
sea,
Yeah, just like Wilfred.
just outside Netley.
So it's his poem, and he made the film to go with it.
Yeah. It's a beautiful film.
It is. It's been very acclaimed, is the word, I think.
Well, yeah. I've had... Because he came in and he said, how have people found the film?
With his Oscar. Oh my guys.
Bang that on the table.
I don't think he won.
Oh, Philip, stop. He came in and was like, how have people found the film? And I said, a lot of people have come in asking for that more than anything else I've spoken
It's
to.
very popular.
It's quite long, isn't it?
8 minutes
8
and
minutes.
44
Although
seconds.
The amount of people I've had on the phone asking when does it begin, obviously we're familiar knowing that it just is on a loop, and they seem to think that there is a screening every day that happens for an hour, and they can just arrive, and we just tell them no, feel free to come at any time and watch it and sit
Okay,
down.
that's an interesting point to note, isn't it? For
But that's only
future-
until the 25th of January, just so everyone knows.
So you've
as
still
well.
got 2 weeks for that?
Come hear that
Couple weeks.
beautiful trumpet.
So what you were laughing about is because it is on a loop. We hear it over and over
We do
and
hear it
over
a lot.
throughout the
Very
gallery, and there's one particular
What motif, a
Part.
little.
sort of a trumpet.
But this is just common to our experience as gallery assistants, that we're so familiar, as Luke said earlier, with the work. When people come in and they say, oh, has the Anya Gallaccio changed much? and we've been in there.
Yeah.
And we go, oh, well, well, that bit still looks like that.
Moving on to Anya Gallaccio, which is in Gallery 3. All the rest is silence, I believe it's called.
Yes.
Mhm.
I was mopping that up today.
Yeah, I mopped it up yesterday. So essentially, Anya Gallaccio's work is a giant chapa silk.
Curtain.
I don't want to call it a curtain because that sounds like it's just degrading towards the piece.
Site
Most
specific.
visitors say.
That's what most people would consider it to be, because it's in front of the window and it's big and covers it up. But what has happened to that since its placement in the gallery? Indigo dye has been pumped into the top of the piece, and that's dripping down, and then throughout its time at the gallery, more dye will be put into it, and then over time it will go from a nice creamy colour to indigo. Yeah, very
blue.
dark indigo. But
And it's happening before our eyes, and
Yeah.
we're so
is.
familiar with that we're not seeing the progress as
well, Sarah, I have been taking pictures of it
every day.
every day I come in.
Ah, good.
And I've got a picture from it, I think it's, well, not from the Friday, so I haven't got it when it was clean, but from the Saturday morning after its private view, I've got images of
Right.
up until now.
Great.
So I'm hoping
Doing
by
a
the end of it,
time-lapse.
I'm going to do some really
Give
bad
Woodman a call.
looking time lapse.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Actually,
I've got a time
Edward
lapse.
Woodman was in photographing
Yeah, he
Gallaccio.
was.
And
Yes.
what was so strange to think about was, even though we weren't in the photo, I think it was me, I know that me and Kat were there, and Ben at one point. I don't
I
know
was
about any of
popping
the
in
other.
and out,
I
chatting
was
to
sat,
Kat,
I
actually.
thought I was in one of the pictures, and I was just like pressed
But
up against the wall.
What's
like,
weird to think about, if that does ever get published, if that's the right terminology for
Yeah.
for a photograph, that
printed.
it was at John Hansard Gallery when we were working there, and essentially our light presence was in that photograph because we were there behind. We were affecting the photograph,
Oh,
so
wow.
we were in it. We can say
How
to
interesting.
You can get some rights to that,
Legend.
Piers.
Especially
yeah,
as
when he makes all his money.
Piers is coming for you.
Yeah,
Edward.
well, that shadow's mine.
Well, especially as he uses film rather than digital, so
It does, yeah.
it is a, that negative actually physically has
Yes,
the
those properties.
what would you call it, the photons, the record of the
Mm.
light photons that actually hit that surface.
Which
so
is what
that's really
Gallaccio's
cool.
work is designed to
Yeah.
reflect in
Mm.
Woodman's, that whole process of analog. Well,
Of-
it's
of-
hard for me
of
to describe
light
because I'm
hit-
so used to doing it. But
yeah, well,
it's-
light fixing something
Yeah,
and changing its properties.
'Cause
That's
I
what
heard
film
Woodrow-
is, isn't it?
the director of the gallery,
Yeah.
he was in there the other day, and he said that apparently the liquid that actually goes into it at first is like a greeny
It is
colour,
green.
Yeah.
Ross told me.
and then it's only when the light actually
Yeah, I stuck my finger in it.
sort of sets the dye to the silk that it then turns indigo.
And
I had no
it's-
idea
Yeah.
Fixed by the daylight.
Sunlight.
because we
Yeah.
see it
No,
splashed
but
all
you
over
do
the floor.
see
and
that
you-
the fabric appears just wet at
Yeah.
first.
yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
it
you're
does.
right.
And then as the day progresses, I suppose, the
Mm.
wet area will become indigo coloured.
That's
Yeah.
why on some of the bottom parts of the material, it's
Yeah.
a light green.
Oh, sorry.
That would be Nadia, our
Hi, Nadia.
Head of exhibitions. Hi, Nadia.
Sorry, yeah, carry on.
No, I was just sort of talking about the way it's transformed, really. And I was going to say it's almost 3/4, would you say, blue now?
Yeah, well, they've since coming back from Christmas, they've
Mm.
Turned it on
sort
more.
of turned it up to 11,
Yeah.
and they're turning it on more so every day,
Yeah.
sort of to
We're the second week of January
increase
now.
the rate of indigo
Oh,
going
they've
into it.
upped the...
Which is explaining
I
the
don't
more
know if we
mopping
should
that we're
Loads of
let on
mopping.
about all the
Lots of splashy
technicalities
splashy.
of the
Yeah.
work.
Oh, and how
Do you not think it spoils it to tell people that how it actually works?
I think it's really interesting.
What,
that
the pump system?
Yeah.
I find it fascinating.
Everyone
No, I
wants to
think-
know, though.
I
I
know.
show people it. I say, look, here's that. I think it's
I
amazing.
know we do, but should we?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think people are interested in how something is installed because to look at it, well, especially when I was interested in painting, and I'm sure this happens with sculpture and photography, you want to know how the artist or the technical team produce that piece of work. And that's the secret people want it, because they think, oh, how do I do that? How do I create
Well, the
or replicate
secret
that?
you just said.
Oh well, yeah. It's
Oh,
good. Okay.
it is.
Well, it's the knowledge. It's the knowledge that I think people demand about a given work.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I think
don't
that
know. Well,
goes back to the nature of everyone, people coming back and people that are regulars that come in. They're the ones that get to see the work change over time.
If they talk to us a lot, we might even show them the cupboard.
The secret cupboard, which apparently
I'm such a whore for that. Clearly, just everybody can see that.
Come on in, guys.
It's
The work's in
brilliant.
here.
It's brilliant because
That's where my station is. I stand there.
Hello.
it's brilliant though because when you show people that, it's sort of. I love when you go to a gallery. Everything looks pristine and clean and tidy because that's how we want to present everything. Because we work here, we know that
But
there's
it's
the cracks in the walls.
It's
and
a privilege of working here.
Yeah,
to
it
be
is.
honest. I don't think it's intended that we show them,
No.
but
And
it
it's
actually
really nice
changes
to me.
the work. It
What's
does,
that?
Yeah.
I think it
changes
humanises the gallery
work.
Yeah.
and the work. It's
Yes.
not so distant and impenetrable when
It's
you think
quite a
this
nice
object is
idea,
perfect.
Yeah,
How was this possibly made? I could not do anything like this.
yeah.
For me, I find that really
But-
important to humanise things because when they're too pristine and too perfect, I don't quite. I find it almost tricky to connect with it on a level. I think what's her name? Eva Rothschild's sculptress.
Yeah.
That's
She makes a lot of works and they look really pristine, but in one of her interviews she said that if you look closely she always leaves this element of the hand in her work and that humanises her work for me. So I like that. That's what I
The
find really
opposite
interesting.
of minimalism sort of thing.
Yeah, sort of I love finding the cracks, especially in really
Yes,
pristine
but
works.
did the artist intend it that way? I don't
Probably
know.
not.
These are big questions and
But-
quite exciting and interesting because we have taken it upon ourselves to sort of share parts of the work that maybe weren't intended to be shared.
That's true. I think maybe that's just our placement as gallery assistants and purely our response to the work.
So we see it in a completely different light to a visitor that's come in one day to have a look at it. We're with it every day. We're cleaning up the mess. We're noticing that someone's peeled off the N on please do not.
Yeah, we're trying to share what we see as well because they're going to. Well, the thing is this
Kind of
is
delight in the work. Yeah.
well, absolutely, and people come in and they have what we don't have, which is a fresh look at the work. Someone will say, oh, this is about this and time expiring. You go, oh, I'd never thought about that.
Yeah.
I've been with it for so long that I had only had one sort of reading of it, or it became very rigid. And then we can say, well, I'll tell you what, actually, this is how we get to see it as well. So I think being a gallery assistant is a bit of an exchange between the public and ourselves as working members of the gallery.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that's what it's been enjoyable
Yeah.
working here as well.
Absolutely. Getting to see how things are put up and the progress and all the behind the scenes things that people don't normally see, and I suppose sharing those things maybe with particular.
We're giving you little glimpses.
Yes.
But
Depends how interested you are, really. If we have an hour conversation, I might open that cupboard for you and then
Or just come to me because you're
just showing everywhere.
just find Piers and he'll let you in.
I'll let you in the office.
But I'm gonna have to bring it to a close, everyone. Yeah.
Oh wow. We didn't even talk about Woodman.
We spoke a little bit about Woodman at the beginning, but I think us talking about our own work and evolution of our work and how we changed is a means of reflecting his evolution of change that he's got on display here, which is
our friends who are photographers taking pictures of our work in situ
there you go.
are going to be the next Edward Woodmans. And then they're going to get barred from their own shows because that's what I did to Edward Woodman.
Oh dear.
Thought I'd add that in right on the end.
But the gallery is free to come down. We're open Tuesday to Saturday, 11 till 5. You'll find us on all social media, I'm pretty sure, at John Hansard Gallery. And we shall see you all in the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.